If you're over 40, this is exactly why wrestling is for you. Whether you're a new fan or someone who dropped off after the Attitude Era, now is the perfect time to jump back in, and I'll tell you why. WWE is at the peak of its popularity. WrestleMania is just days away, the stories are better than ever, and the talent is top tier. I get it, we're older now. It just doesn't hit the same way that it used to. But there's a beauty in being able to acknowledge that and embrace the fact that I can appreciate it for different things. When I was a child, watching wrestling on TV, I was completely enamored by how physical and brutal everything was, and the big moves, the excitement, the Stone Cold Stunner out of nowhere, or your modern day RKO out of nowhere. I don't get the same reaction to that anymore, and that's perfectly fine. What I enjoy is being able to turn it completely around and say, you know what? What if I worked behind the scenes? What if I was in charge of the production? What if I can read between the lines in that promo and hear some truth coming through the character and start seeing the real world and the behind the scenes goings on, because that's what they're giving us nowadays. We have an insane amount of access right now. There are countless podcasts that I'll go into in detail later that give us a glimpse into what it's like behind the scenes and give us a new way to appreciate the thing that we love. At the beginning of the Netflix era, Triple H shared with us that he wasn't going to pretend that the fans weren't aware that this is a grand theater stage. Instead, he's going to look us dead in the eye and he's going to start blurring the lines between what's real, what's a story, what's a work, what's a shoot. He's going to start obfuscating those details. Plant the seeds in front of your very face so that you can't tell the difference. You're going to have to pick up on little nuances and little details, and just when you think you've got it figured out, oh, they stepped too far. Oh, Tiffany just said Charlotte was 0-3. Well, is that a work? Is it a shoot? I don't know. The truth is, only they know. But through these little glimpses, we get to pretend that we understand a little bit more than maybe we actually do. We no longer understand when we're being the puppet. But that's the beauty in it now. With podcasts like the Busted Open podcast or 6 Feet Under with Mark Calloway, Chris Van Vliet, who interviews active wrestlers from across multiple promotions, Simon Miller, a wrestler himself born out of just the joy of wanting to wrestle and wanting to bring positivity into the world and celebrating goofy wrestling. These guys give us a gateway to see behind the curtain, to see what's been going on the last number of years, to see how the business operates. But don't be fooled. As much as they're giving us a wide open glimpse of what's going on and how things operate, I promise there's a lot more going on than we'll ever know about. But because they're giving us this access and opening the doors, The Undertaker himself, the dead man, is starting to share stories from the last 30 plus years. We're getting to hear about conversations that were behind the scenes, about how disputes were settled when things really did get out of hand. Those are things that are only just now coming to us. And it's a glorious time to be able to say, hey, what used to work for me, or what is working for the younger generation, that isn't getting over with me. That's not the full appeal. But by being able to embrace these outside of the ring antics, the inside of the podcasts, the shoot podcasts that we hear from Bret Hart or people talking about Hulk Hogan, by listening, we can revisit, we can travel back, and we can see a glimpse of what our heroes were like or how the industry operates right now. WWE recently put out a series known as LFG, Legends and Future Greats, but if you ask me, stood for something else, and they didn't really hide from that during the show. Let's freaking go. They opened that door. They even brought the dead man himself, Mark Calloway, The Undertaker, to be one of the coaches. And part of the show is he had to learn how to speak openly in front of a camera about the business and about what they do. He had conditioned himself for so many decades about protecting the business, about not sharing these details, and now he's having to conform himself to the new reality that he's going to let some of that out, and it's okay. Now, if you take any time to actually listen to his podcast, you'll definitely hear that there's still a reservation. They're not trying to throw everything out there. There's even some innuendos and hints that there's plenty of topics that they, maybe for legal reasons, can't even go into. But we are able to enjoy it for a completely different reason now, and that's wonderful. The WWE is giving us multiple ways to try to choose our own adventure. If you want to see how the modern day stars are being groomed and brought up, WWE LFG is a fantastic source for that. If you want to be able to look back and see a documentary style on how wrestlers of the years gone by would operate or struggled with, and I do warn you, some of these stories can get quite tragic. There's the Dark Side of the Ring, where they go over stories like Doink the Clown, which at first glance might bring a smile to your face and a small chuckle, but the truth is, he lived a very dangerous lifestyle. He was under the influence, struggled with addiction, got into bar fights. Some of the stories involving those were, let's just say, quite brutal and tragic. He's left behind by a legacy of his daughter, who's recounting stories of how she perceived her father and what she knew of him. They even have an episode featuring New Jack as he was in the Indies and his multiple occurrences of stabbing and cutting people, even being put into prison, and then working a deal with the very guy he repeatedly stabbed who wanted to make money wrestling with him just because of all the media hype, and then he ditches him and flees Florida just to avoid any type of persecution. And if you haven't heard of him yet, I want to take a special moment to take a moment to go and look up Simon Miller. Simon Miller also participates on What Culture Wrestling. Simon Miller is an absolute gift to the universe. He himself was just a wrestling fanboy. I've heard brief stories of him talking about how he got into wrestling and then maybe some people weren't quite friendly to him and he ended up dropping wrestling and then years later decided, you know what, to freak with it, I want to do this, and he got back into wrestling, and now he's getting to live some of his dreams of not just covering wrestling, but now he's able to go to different promotions, and he's even become a champion along the way. Simon is one of the most positive people on YouTube and on the internet in general, and I would highly encourage you to go give him a visit if you're getting into this space. He'll help put a smile on your face, and he'll help you enjoy the positivity in the world around us. Another big standout would be Bubba Ray Dudley. He makes frequent appearances on the Busted Open podcast, and he brings an insight that not everyone is going to be able to appreciate. But through the method of tough love and really trying to teach a lesson and wanting to be the way that the boys were the boys back in the day and blurring all those together, but with an outcome of, I just want to see you improve. I just want this to be better. I just want to take this to the next level. That's what he brings to the table. And if you can get past some of the harshness of his words or his actions or the stories that he tells, you can see there's a true intent that he wants everything and everyone around him to simply do better. He brings an imagination. He loves playing fantasy booker just like I do and playing the what ifs and tweaking the dials. Bubba Ray Dudley is a great insight into what the business actually is behind the doors, how deals get made. Watching him on LFG, there were several clips that were probably works. They probably set us up. But it was examples like, hey, we walked up with a tiny little girl and said, hey, we're going to one of the biggest dudes on the entire roster. And hey, do you mind if she beats you in the team match? That was a 100% him just trying to get a reaction and say, no, I'm not okay with that. I want to do business, but that's not how we do business, and that's not how I'm going to look good. He put that young man in a situation where he had to look directly at a legend and to his face say, no, I'm not going to do your request. And he failed to rise to that particular challenge, but it's just an example of the type of person that Bubba Ray is. Bubba Ray wants you to earn your respect. He wants to teach you all the lessons outside of the ring that make the in-ring work. That particular example was a case of protect yourself and your character, and you're also protecting the business along the way. It's okay to say no. You have to stand up for yourself at times for things to be better. In that particular moment, the young man failed to recognize it, failed to speak up for himself, and he got pushed over a little bit. But Bubba Ray was able to challenge him in a safe environment where he knew he was going to be protected and expose him to the reality of he may be put in that position without those types of protections going forward. So for those reasons, I absolutely implore you, give the Busted Open podcast a listen to. Bubba Ray in particular is someone who's after my heart. They also occasionally get Dolph Ziggler, apologies, I can't think of his real name right this moment, but also Dave LaGreca as well, who's been a super fan for a number of years and brings a lot of value to the wrestling industry as a whole. The other really big reason to join in right now and why it's so awesome is they've completely changed their approach to storytelling. There are much fewer stories that are flashes in the pan and just 3 weeks in to get to the pay-per-view and then we're off to the races. There's an intentful, methodical pace of just walking and trying the next thing and getting to the next point with an end picture in mind, but flexibility along the way of how we're going to pivot to it. The stories are intentionally crafted to be an entire year plus worth of content. Right now you can take examples from the storyline, you can take examples from the final boss, and you can see there's a clear, methodical approach. The Rock has so sparingly even made appearances, and there's a clear intent of him looming in the shadows and controlling everything from behind the curtain, not even at the show, that they're going to have to spend the next 2-3 years getting us towards. And because of that long build, they get to flesh out all these different concepts and plant seeds along the way. A hallmark of the Triple H era is they will look to plant little hints or interactions in the background of a lot of the promos and start giving you those little bits of information that either you can look at the time and go, oh, I see what they're going for, and you can come up with your whole theory of what they're trying to do. Maybe it's right. Maybe they're just throwing you off the trail. Or a big event can happen and you can go back and look at old footage and go, they showed us right in front of our eyes. The biggest example of that most recently was going to be the Rock throwing up the 3 fingers, counting 1, 2, 3. Everybody now knows that was a reference to John Cena. John Cena holds up 3 fingers in both hands and faces them to the crowd. The Rock just did the exact same fingers, turned the other way around. It's so obvious now, but at the time and for many months, most of us just never caught on to that. With these longer story arcs, they're able to invest into talent. They're able to tell us or show us a growth pattern. They're able to show us a trajectory. A great example is the Alpha Academy and Chad Gable. Chad Gable started as their mentor, really training them, really whipping them into shape. Ultimately, he went down a dark turn of events. They weren't living up to his expectations. He turned into an abusive coach, going as far as to start pushing them, start slapping them, abusing them. This included a woman in Maxine Dupree who, completely out of her mind, stood straight up to him and said, no more. You have Otis, this big brute who's full of life and full of character and one of my absolute favorites, saying enough's enough, and after all those years of loyalty to him and never really wanting to question him, being pushed to his absolute limit and saying enough. And finally, one of the biggest reasons that you can enjoy everything that they're doing now is there's no more pay-per-views. They've switched to a PLE model, premium live events, that you can access more easily without spending $80, $90 each and every time you want to see a show. And because of that, you feel connected to the actual story. Back in the day, if you were a kid and you were watching wrestling, you would see all the buildup. You'd see all the work that they put into it, and then it would go disappear, and only a select few would be able to actually watch the payoffs. And you'd have to wait. You'd wait until Monday morning or Monday evening, and you'd watch Raw, and you would see everything that unfolded, and that's how you would get fulfillment from it. But that's completely in the past now. WrestleMania is a few days away. They have 18 hours of content that they're putting out there. Granted, it's not 18 hours of wrestling, but they're giving it to you. It's accessible. You can go and you can watch it without spending all that crazy money, and you can watch it at your own pace. You can DVR it. You can let it build up. You can skip commercials. I know they don't want me saying that, but we all do it, and it's great because I don't have 6 to 12 hours to watch just wrestling. But because of DVR, I can quickly fast forward through it, and I can watch everything. I can watch it the next day if I can avoid spoilers. I can watch it on a second monitor while I'm working or at the gym. Or I can just watch a recap through Simon Miller or What Culture Wrestling. All right. So if you made it this far, kudos. That was a lot. But let me give you some advice. If you're still interested in moving forward, let me answer this. Do you need 20 years of knowledge to be able to understand what's happening right now? Absolutely not. Despite the fact that they're painting pictures to be 1 to 3 year storylines and kind of walking everything through that, yes, there's some rewards for having some previous knowledge, but no, you don't have to know every detail of that. Typically, it takes about 2 months and you're going to be up to speed, especially if you can hit it during a good pay-per-view cycle like SummerSlam, like WrestleMania, like War Games, like the Royal Rumble. You don't have to have all that existing knowledge. They're going to give you enough clues and enough of recent events that as long as you can keep a loose eye on what's going on for about 2 months, you're going to be invested. One of the biggest tips I can give you is to attach yourself to something arbitrarily, but find something that you're excited about. The way that WWE is split up right now is they have a main Raw product and a main SmackDown product, so Monday and Friday nights. For the most part, they try to keep those two products separate. However, they 100% do overlap. At WrestleMania, we have a main event between CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins. Those are two SmackDown superstars wrestling with a Raw superstar so that they can tell a story. So I would encourage you to watch both because it is important to be able to follow everything that's going on. But between those, do yourself a favor. Go pick someone who's completely easy to like. He's a top guy. He's always going to be there. You can expect him to be on the pay-per-views. Find one and stick to him and just let it be your guy. An easy example right now is Cody Rhodes. He's the face of the company. If you want somebody that's a little rougher around the edges, you might take a look at CM Punk or Seth freaking Rollins. But pick one from SmackDown and one from Raw, and just, even if you have no attachment, just make them yours. Just enjoy their experience, enjoy their ride. If you like somebody who's a bit more methodical and a bit more old school, Gunther is on Raw. He's a great person to watch if you really appreciate that older style of wrestling. If you like someone who's way more of a talker, the best talker in the business is CM Punk. If you want someone who's going to wrestle more frequently and is still also a talker and a bit more negative towards things, Seth freaking Rollins is a great example. Take it a step further, though. It's fun to like the good guys. But the truth is, it's way more fun to like the good guys who are really good at being bad. People like Drew McIntyre, Dirty Dom, Dominic Mysterio, these guys take being the heel, being the bad guy, to a completely different level. The amounts that Drew McIntyre is able to just completely blur the lines between real and not real and really call out almost like a fourth dimension wall break and say the things that the fan is thinking and just make it make sense to him. He's got a warped view of the entire world, but he makes it make sense, and he gives you reasons that you can go, fair enough. So try to find you a both a babyface and a heel that you can cheer with. The best baby faces are really amazing heels. I think we're about to see a resurgence with Dirty Dom, Dominic Mysterio. I'm hoping he's going to have his moment soon. So he might be an interesting one to watch. I promise you, he's one of those guys that when you first see him, you can't stand him at all. And the more you just learn about him and see the little things that he does, you just can't help but love him. And I'm really looking forward to him getting a push soon. And no matter what you do, make sure you don't leave out Mommy. Rhea Bloody Ripley. She's a talent on the Raw brand. She is an absolute force to be reckoned with. She has an aura that exudes from her. She's always going to be in the title hunt. If you want somebody fun to follow, or maybe you have a younger daughter, or maybe even a wife that's interested in taking a look at this with you, she is my go-to pointer for. I don't know how you don't love her. She's still technically a heel, but she is as over as a babyface as anyone can be. And so they're trying to find this balance of still letting her be a heel while also being a baby. And those are some of the absolute best villains. And I can't encourage people enough to look in her direction. All right, if you're still with me, let's even add some bonus content to this. I would encourage you, if you want to take it more than just watching the show, some of the most fun I've had watching wrestling actually has very little to do with what's going on in the ring. It's more about just watching the product, watching the audience, and that's just fantasy booking it myself. Pretend you're in charge of the entire show. You can make anything happen. You can manipulate any of these relationships any which way you want, or you can watch an existing conflict and say, here's how I would get to the pay-per-view. Just play with it. Just say, man, I wish the match would end like this, or I wish during the match this would happen, or oh man, can you imagine if this went down, or if this person came in? What if they did a street fight at the pay-per-view? What if they did this? What if it... To me, that's the single best part about wrestling. It makes me smile. It makes me think. I love trying to find ways to dump things on their head to really find a catch where maybe they're walking a straight line and it's no big deal, but along the way I can say, hey, I could use this as a breadcrumb, and I could turn this babyface into a heel because of this breadcrumb, and I can start connecting these things together. Whether it's intended or not, whether it's real or not, being able to make that story kind of your own in your head and actually being rewarded when it actually goes the way that you were more or less suggesting or predicting, go for it. I would even tell you to go further and look at the PLE and the pay-per-view cards and just come up with your own results. And more than just, oh, this person's going to win here. Take it a step further. Why are they going to win? What's the value to the business? What's the value to the company? How is that going to earn them more money? How does that victory set them on a 3-month path to the next major PLE? Justify it. Find reasons. Find reasons to fill gaps. We're going to go from WrestleMania to SummerSlam. How do we get there with what we have in front of us? I would encourage you, find ways to plug those holes, and it doesn't matter if you know every little answer to it. It's all for you. It's all just for fun and investment to see if you can get where you want to go. Find the things that make you happy and latch onto them, and don't be afraid. If you get to a match and you're just not interested in it, don't be afraid. Just skip past it. It's okay. If it's interesting enough, if it's resonating with enough people, that'll eventually keep throwing it in your face. You'll see highlights from it, and maybe that's a point where you're like, okay, maybe I should pay more attention to that. But if you're not resonating with something, move on. It's perfectly fine. Nobody cares. You're an audience of one, and that's for yourself. Finally, my last piece of advice is don't be afraid to yeet a little. Rock your head, get into it. You don't have to jump up and down in your living room if you don't want to, but just feel it. You hear the music, you hear the crowd going nuts. Just, rock your shoulders, nod your head, just let it be. Just try to see if you can't just get a little bit into it. You'd be surprised how far that can take you, and just kind of enjoying the whole crowd experience. Well, that's it for me. I really do appreciate you stopping in. If you are in the 40 plus club, if you are looking at wrestling for the first time, or if you're looking to get back into it, definitely let me know. I want to make this as welcoming of a community as possible. If you want advice on different podcasts to take a look at, or different things, different ways to interpret items, feel free, leave a comment. I'll get back to you. But just try to enjoy it. This is the literal best weekend that you could possibly join in on. There's going to be all kinds of headlines that are going to come out of this WrestleMania. Just give it a shot. See what you think. Pick a person or two that you want to follow. Fall in love again. It's okay to be 10 years old again. But that's it for now. Have a great WrestleMania weekend. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know what resonates for you. If you have any questions, throw them down. I'll respond to them. Enjoy yourselves.